Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, um, November the 12th. We have two additions to the agenda this evening. We have trail as well as an NV Power presentation that we'll be adding to the agenda. And with that, do I have a move to adopt the agenda with the additions? So moved by Councilor Lenis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gallant. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. We want to go into just a quick recess. We are trying to get hold of one of the meeting people.
No, we can keep going. Yeah, we have two presentations before.
Okay. With that, can I get adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting from October the 15th, 2024?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Bannister, seconded by Councilor Lenis. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Aye. Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting from October the 28th, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept the
So
minutes?
moved.
So moved by Councilor Bannister, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gallant. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 5, consent agenda. We have all received a consent agenda package. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? So moved by Deputy Mayor Gallant, seconded by Councilor Bannister. Questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 6, public and administrative presentations. Item number 1, bylaw number 50-2A, bylaw to amend bylaw number 50, Village of Salisbury Municipal Plan, PID 702-8681.
Over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The presentation is, yeah, okay, there we go. So what we have today is a zoning bylaw amendment, which requires also an amendment to the municipal plan, future land use designation from residential to industrial. Sort it out.
Is it gonna work?
But it is upside down, like you said. So as you see, this is the property to which the request relates. It is currently zoned or under residential land use map, and the proposal is to convert that to industrial to allow the operation of a motor vehicle repair shop and inspection of vehicles as well. So tonight, we simply have the public presentation, which is a requirement under the Community Planning Act when considering an amendment to the municipal plan. It is not a public hearing, just a presentation to indicate council's intent to amend the municipal plan. So it also includes a formal announcement of council's intent, as I said, to consider the amendment and a public call for written comments on that proposed change. So the public has 30 days to submit written comments, and then there will be a public hearing following in the future. So the municipal plan directs future development in the town. In this case, industrial designation identifies areas appropriate for industrial development within the town of Salisbury. This property does abut a lot within the industrial designation that's located along Main Street with connection to the downtown. In this case, the proposed amendment to the future land use map is to include a portion of Civic 3041 Main Street in the industrial designation, again, to allow a vehicle repair and inspection shop. This is a proposed site plan of the project. It's all within existing building. This is purely a change of land use, though there could be additions to the buildings in the future, just not part of the proposal today. Scenario photo showing the existing buildings on the property. And a couple of photos on a nicer day than today. You can see the existing garage that is currently operating as an auto repair shop under a temporary use permit. So this is the future land use map, as I was saying. See, it doesn't work on the screen. So you can see the change from yellow with the little red square. That would be the portion that's being added to the industrial future land use designation. So again, this meeting is basically a notification requesting public submit any written comments. And the public hearing gives the public opportunity to speak for against the amendments on December 12th at 7 p.m. Here in council chambers. That's going to be the actual public hearing where the public has an opportunity to express their opinions on the project. Presentation.
That's the best. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you showed the aerial photo with the property lines on top of it, can you bring that back up? Sorry. That one.
Yes.
The line comes really close to the building there. And even in the picture of the property, it looks like there's stuff that would be over that line.
Yeah.
So is that addressed or is that?
So the building is existing. I believe there was a permit granted as an accessory building, which only requires a 3-foot setback. Keep in mind that these are not survey tools, so there can be differences between where the line is and where the property line is, shown on that map.
I'm just thinking like there was a transport truck shown in the picture beside the building.
Yeah.
At the back, it would have been on there.
Which may or may not be parked on the neighbor's property.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those lines are not accurate down to the,
Yeah, there's a big disclaimer when you open up those softwares that say this is not to be used as a survey tool.
I
The
think
building did obtain a permit. I don't have the date in front of me, but that structure did receive a permit, so have to assume that all set permit at that time.
And from a land use perspective, that's a landowner to landowner piece, right? Like,
Neighbors.
yeah, because the abutting property is the zoning that would be permitted or that this applicant is seeking.
I think both of those properties were all one property at one point.
Question. And it may not have anything to do with the zoning, but perhaps if we could get to some requirements. Do we have any concerns about the number of vehicles that may end up being either next to or in front of this particular thing? It's very close to the main street, right? And it's not like it won't be visible to passerbys. Do we have any concern about that sort of thing, like vehicles and how the property's taken care of and those types of things? Like it's not like it's way back from the road.
Yeah, the temporary use permit had some restrictions on parking areas. Those are things that council could definitely take into consideration as conditions of the approval. Establishing where parking is allowed and how big the parking area can be. I think the site plan that was attached showed an idea of what he's proposing in terms of parking area. Because it's an auto repair garage, there's going to be a lot of coming and going of vehicles, so it's difficult to establish a hard number of vehicles parked, but in terms of the parking area that would be permitted, that's certainly something that can be set out in the bylaw.
I mean, you guys would know this better than I as far as going back and forth. And because I rarely would drive that way. Do you guys have any concerns?
as long as you're not blocking the road.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I mean, he's actively operating right now, and there are a lot of vehicles always in the yard. But, I mean, as long as they're not out on the street and the streets can still be looked after the way they should be. I think then that becomes a Brad issue if there's things that are out of line at that point.
And a tow truck can be called pretty quickly to remove vehicles that are close to the road.
It is an industrial land use, so I mean, there will be some visual impacts, of course.
Mhm.
As long as it's relegated to the property, then it should be fine.
Okay,
Any additional questions? Joe, sorry.
no, that's it.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it tonight. Make sure you drive safe.
Yes.
On the highway.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, moving on to item number 2, Q3 update from the Salisbury Fire and Rescue. Brad.
I'll give you the first update. It's snowing outside.
Really?
Get the winter tires on.
You've been busy.
Yeah, and so again, I don't think it was being recorded at the time, but we just got back from a call, so apologize for my tire right now. I didn't even get to eat supper. I just went right from my computer out the door. So I'll give the update to what has happened for the last bit. So a little update on our organization. So we got 2 new members. We have a new member that came from Ontario, who was just recently joined the department. He's fully qualified, like he has all his certificates and way more certificates than most members on the department. And he just started this summer. He's already turning out to be a great asset. He's eager to get into training. He did training. He's so we're looking at getting him into that. But he so far is a great asset. That's Justin Smith. Ryan Crawford recently joined as well. He's going through the probationary period right now. We're bringing him out to training and evaluating his performance there. A little update on some of the calls that we got going on here. We had a very slow, and we didn't really meet to talk about Q2, but we had a slow summer. It was very quiet in May, June, July, and that's primarily weather related. It was pretty good weather-wise. And August, September, October picked back up, but they're pretty much normal calls. We don't. There was nothing out of the ordinary with that mix of some fires and some automobile accidents. So we can kind of see here, kind of comparing how 2023 ended compared to where we're at. You know, we're one off from the fires, but we're down on mutual aid. Some of our fires, since we moved over to fire control, are getting more classified as fires and not mutual aid. So that's a cleanup on our end to do a little bit better. But everything else is still trending pretty much on pace. Medical's a bit up, but everything is pretty much on normal. In medical, I'm not too concerned. I don't feel like we're going to a whole lot of crazy calls like we were seeing in the past. I feel the ambulances are in a much better position than where they were a few years ago. Yeah. So
That's good news.
Good news.
they were there. They beat us to the call today, so they were there. So it's not uncommon now to have the ambulance on scene first. So that's good.
Is that just a staffing issue on their end or?
Well, there was part of that, but really there was offload delays in the hospitals. So they get the hospitals.
Oh, yeah.
They would have to stay with the patients. Yeah. So that would tie them up. So it's gotten better. It's gotten better. Looking at attendance, attendance is really good. There's been a lot of focus over the last couple of years to drive attendance up, and we're at last quarter 38% attendance on calls. So that's really good. Training attendance has really gone up, and so has all attendance. With I think you guys looked at the honorarium changes that we're doing. We're putting more emphasis on training, and we have been in the past, but we're really putting more emphasis on getting more people out to the training. And right now we pretty much have like more than half the department regularly on Monday nights. So it is really, really good.
That's really good.
Highlighted the top members, and Justin, you know, he started in September, he's at 79%. He's up on the Homestead Road is where he lives, so he's got a ways to go, but he's there any chance he can.
Good.
I just wanted to highlight, calls, by the time of day. So you can see during the weekday, calls during the day is, dropped down, but, there's been more late night calls, as compared to last year. And then we look at responders. We get a good steady average during the weekday, which is really good. That was always a concern that we didn't have people around during the day to respond, but if you got an average of 7, chances are you're getting 2 trucks out, and we do have great mutual aid to cover, but at least we can get 2 trucks out, which is good. And evenings we've always been really good there. Late nights been good, and weekends rock solid, in my opinion.
Nice.
And I think that's it. So, another thing that we're gonna start doing, or we're starting to do, now that we're with fire control, we get a little bit more data with our calls. So we're looking at, adding in, time it takes for us to get to the hall, and time it takes to get out the door, and time it takes to, arrive on scene. So we have that timestamp, fire control timestamps every truck, where they do that. So we'll throw that in there so we can look for anything that can help, right? And it's not so much worried about, you know, you can only get people here so fast, right? But if you start to see the numbers creep up, then there may be a need to get, you know, recruit members closer to the halls, right? It may say that we have too many people on the outskirts, right?
Any questions for Chief?
Do you anticipate when you get into the new fire hall expanding the membership?
I would like to go down that road, yes. Yeah. Whether it be a phased approach, but I do envision expanding the rest.
Better than having empty lockers.
That?
So that'll be better than having empty lockers.
Yeah, my thought is if you got the lockers and you got the people, like we do have like approximately 5 people that are interested to join, but we're full. Right?
Right.
So I just have applications that I just keep on hold.
Good.
So we're in a really good spot. I know, you know, the news, they sometimes bring up volunteers, struggling to get volunteers. The other mutual aid departments, they're not as fortunate as we are, but we have a good, strong group. We have many people, like I said, looking to join, and it's a good mix of age. Yeah, we get some young, we get some senior.
It seems like everything's perfect in your house.
Yeah, I don't want to,
Fellas?
don't jinx me, but it does look like everything is, we're doing.
That's kudos to you. Great job. That's where I was going with that. So good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, Chief.
Yes.
Enjoy your night. Go get some supper.
Yeah, I'm gonna go have supper. Thank you
All
all.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7, reports and recommendations.
We're gonna see if Christina can hear us. Christina, can you hear us? Oh, you're muted. I don't know if we can hear you.
We can't hear you.
No.
No.
I saw her laughing, so I know you can hear.
Oh,
There we
oh,
go.
Oh, wait. We just heard you for a minute, but now we can't hear you again. Or was that her, or was that something from Joe? It was, yeah?
I think.
Oh. No. But what?
You could see the little speaker and it went green for a second.
Yeah.
No. Start
You want to take a quick recess and we can try to figure it out maybe?
Can I have a motion to enter recess?
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Bannister, seconded by Counselor Blinas. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
We're now going to go into recess just while we work on some technical challenges. Can I have a motion to enter back into regular council meeting, please?
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Bannister, seconded by Counselor Blinas. We are, any questions on the motion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now enter back into regular council. And with that, can I move on to reports and recommendations from?
No, we're still number 6. So
Number 6, sorry.
presentation.
Okay, sorry, yeah, never mind, yeah. That can be better.
Over to you, Christina. And
Sorry.
Diane, we'll bring it up on the screen.
Wonderful.
Technical difficulties.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me speak at your meeting tonight. It means a lot to be able to get out to different councils as well as public residents of our beautiful province to be able to give some information on smart meters. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can, you're good. We can't
Yeah.
see, you're just gonna tell us verbally when to switch because we can't see you. So just tell us when you want us to switch slides.
No problem, no problem. So the first slide should say building tomorrow's grid to power your life. So what's important to us at MB Power is to make sure all of our customers, including council, know that we are deploying smart meters because it's the foundation for a smart grid. We have to prepare for what's coming to the utility, which is integrating renewables as well as electrification with electric vehicles on the rise. And we need to have that two-way communication to be able to give us visibility on what's happening on the grid, as well as a whole slew of customer benefits that come along with smart meters. And smart meters lay the foundation for us to be able to have that visibility and provide customers benefits. So it's really important to us to be able to share that with all of our customers. We're not doing this, to change a meter, and that's the reason why. Yes, we have to change the meter, but what's different about the meters today is that they're one-way communicating meters, and the smart meters are two-way communicating meters. So we'll be able to offer customers more choice, more benefits, as well as give us more visibility to what's on the grid when we do integrate renewables. So I'd like to take a little bit of time tonight to go through what does our project look like, share what the process looks like, as well as a key customer benefit that will be realized once we do deploy smart meters. And I also wanted to give you as council members the opportunity to ask questions as well. So we can go to the next slide, which should say smart meter deployment schedule.
Correct.
Perfect. So our deployment schedule, we started mass deployment, upgrading all of our residential meters and our commercial and industrial meters. So that includes home, businesses, small industrial customers. We started that deployment en masse November 1st, 2023. So here we are already a year into doing this project, and we are a little bit delayed in Area 1. So we divided the province into 3 areas to be able to deploy smart meters effectively, and we expect it to be finished the western side of the province by about summer, so July of 2024, and we actually didn't finish that until September of 2024. However, we are into Area 2. We are in the area of Rothesay right now, Grand Bay Westfield, Moncton as well. So we began that in September, and we plan to be finished that area of the province, as you can see on the map, by about May of 2025. And then we're going to continue up the coast until we get up north, and that will be Area 3. And we expect to be completely finished deploying smart meters, touching all homes and businesses in New Brunswick by November of 2025 or December, around that time frame. So it is a 24-month period. It's one of the largest customer-facing projects we have embarked on as a utility, and I can't believe we're a year into it already. So next slide, please.
Perfect.
What was really important to us was that we engaged our customers along the way of the smart meter deployment. So we wanted to make sure we got in front of our customers to be able to give them the facts about smart meters and give them an opportunity to ask questions. We are not the first utility who has done this. Actually, 80% of Canadians do have smart meters. So we have learned some things from other utilities who have deployed already. And one of the things that we've done is part of the process is develop a customer notification process. So leading up to installation, what we like to do is we like to, of course, get in front of council and have town hall sessions to be able to really share what does smart meter deployment look like, why are we doing this, and give an opportunity to maybe answer some questions where customers are fearful of what smart meters could mean. And it's not going to be a surprise once the smart meter goes onto the customer's home or the business. Leading up to installation, a few weeks before, we gave a letter as well as an email letting our customers know that we plan to be in their area to deploy smart meters in the coming weeks. And then a few days before the install happens, we do have an automated call that goes out to the phone number we have on file. Friendly reminder stating we will be in their area to install the smart meter. And on the day the smart meter occurs, the install occurs, we do knock on the door ahead of installing the smart meter. And if the customer answers, we do let the customer know we are there to change their meter. It's only a momentary outage, so it doesn't take very long, under 2 minutes, I've been told. And sometimes it's not a good time for our customers to have a smart meter exchange happening. Maybe they're working from home, maybe they have something in the oven, or they're working on an important document. So if it's not a good time, we will go back at their convenience to install the smart meter. If they are not home when we knock, we will proceed with doing that meter exchange, but it still won't be a surprise because we leave a door hanger on their front door to let them know we've been there and we've installed the smart meter. And then after installation, we always make sure we survey our customers so we can hear how is their experience with that upgrade. Another thing that was very important to us is that our customers knew that we were the ones who were going to be on site to install the smart meter. So we have engaged a third-party meter installation vendor who is experienced in smart meter deployment. However, they are branded with MB Power logo. So the vehicle that comes up in the yard has an MB Power symbol on it, as well as they have personal protective equipment on and a name tag that shows that they are representing MB Power to install their smart meter. I'm also pleased to share that so far, a year into this deployment, we do have a 94% positive to neutral customer experience on their smart meter upgrade overall. So I'm very happy to hear that. Every so often we do hear a few things posted on social media where people are concerned or they hear a myth or what they believe to be facts about smart meters. And it's very important that we as a utility get the information out that's correct to our customers. And we do have a 94% positive to neutral sentiment rate so far. So we're proud of that. Okay, next slide, please. So putting the power in your hands, this is a key benefit we're really excited about to be able to share with our customers. And one of those benefits is to be able to, once our customers have a smart meter, they are going to be able to go on to their online account. And today, when you go on your online account and you have an older meter, a non-smart meter, you would see your consumption on a monthly view. So you can do that today. But once you get a smart meter, you're going to have so much information at your fingertips. You're going to be able to see energy usage information at a glance. And you'll be able to choose whether you want to see that information in kilowatt hours or dollars. Some of our customers like to see their consumption in kilowatt hours, but some want to know what does that mean from a dollar perspective. And now with smart meters, you can see your consumption in dollars or kilowatt hours in 15-minute intervals, in hourly chunks, or in daily chunks. Whereas prior to the smart meters, you could only see it in monthly chunks. So we're really excited. We're hearing good feedback about that functionality. We also have, as part of the portal, a temperature overlay because we know that as it gets colder outside, it takes more to heat your home. So if you do see a higher consumption, you can do a little hover over that area where the consumption was higher, and it will give you temperature information in addition to your kilowatt usage. So we're hearing good feedback on that. You know, especially, you know, some of the information we really, if my kids are home and I know they're taking a shower, I can see it the day before how the consumption has peaked. So it's really giving folks good information about energy usage in their home. It doesn't show exactly, you know, what appliance is taking what type of power, but you can reflect on what occurred in your home the day before, and try to diagnose what could be drawing so much energy. The next slide, please.
Perfect.
So part of this energy portal is the functionality of energy usage alerts. Much like your cell phone, I don't know if any of you have shared data plans with your cell phone with your children, but as your data gets used, and you're getting up to that threshold, you will get a notification saying that, you know what, you're almost at your threshold. So we're looking to do that same, offer that same convenience to our customers with their consumption. So we have two types of alerts, energy usage alerts, that come with this new portal with smart meters. So the first one is an automatic email notification to you if your usage is trending 30% higher than the same month last year. So we make sure that it's comparable year over year as opposed to month over month, because there can be a temperature change month over month. So if it's trending 30% higher, you will get an email notification. And there's also the choice that our customers can set their own thresholds based on kilowatt hour increase. So you can go in there and play with, you know, I'd like to know maybe if I'm 20% higher, or maybe there's a certain kilowatt hour that interests you, and you can put your own customized alert on there. But the beauty of this for our customers is that today, without a smart meter, you can manage your consumption to the best of your ability with only one meter reading and one monthly amount for consumption, hoping that at the end of the month, you've done some good with managing your usage. With smart meters, you're going to be able to see throughout the month how you're trending on your consumption, so that it's not a surprise at the end of the 30 days what your bill is going to be. So it gives you the opportunity as a customer to change your behavior to reduce your usage before you actually get your bill. So that's a key benefit for our customers. Next slide, please.
Perfect.
The one thing that is definitely out there, and I'm sure it's not a surprise to all of you, is there is a lot of misinformation about smart meters. We have some customers who are concerned about health, privacy, safety, you know, or are these meters accurate? Are they going to make my bill increase? So doing our best as a utility to get the facts out to our customers via social media, via roundtables. We're even going to seniors groups to be able to do presentations. And there is a lot of misinformation out there, but I also like to point out again that we do have an overall very good neutral to positive percentage of our customers who are fine with smart meters or have had a positive experience with those smart meters. But we like to make sure we can get out there and get the facts shared. And we know many of your constituents have questions, possibly maybe you're getting questions as well. So we would really appreciate your support if you could give us some areas where we could get out there and get presentations made to the communities. We do have one in Moncton planned. We are going to do one in GF and one in Riverview. We aren't in those areas yet, and I would ideally like to get out there before we install smart meters so folks can ask questions. But any area that you think would benefit from a presentation, we can do a public session in Salisbury as well. And that would be what we would ask from this council here. You can provide us that information if you're willing for us to be able to get out there and get this presentation so our customers can ask questions. We do have a flyer that we share at our presentations that gives the facts versus the myths about smart meter, about those areas that I mentioned earlier. So it's good to be able to get those facts out there to our customers. And then that next slide, folks, is the facts about smart meters that I talked about. And one thing I do like to share is about some of our customers like to ask if they can opt out, and our customers can certainly request not to have a smart meter installed. Or to have communications turned off, because that's their choice and they can certainly do that. And at this time, there is no fee for that opt-out. Once we are fully deployed in the province, we have to do a scan to see how many of our customers have opted out and what would the rate be to continue to serve the opt-out customers to go out and actually read those meters. And of course, that rate would have to be approved by the Energy and Utilities Board as well. But customers do have the option to opt out. This is not mandatory. They can choose that. So we like to put that on our frequently asked questions as well. And that concludes the slide deck, and I'd like to open it up for questions.
Back to the screen so you can see us. There we go. Thank you for doing it that way to bear with our technical difficulties. But I'll pass it over to you guys if there's any questions.
Questions?
John? We know you want to.
Yeah. I do have a couple questions. The first one that comes to mind, though, if I can remember the second one, then I'd start with that. Is this the precursor to peak power rates and off-peak power rates?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And I should have covered it during this presentation, because all of the presentations that I do, I get that question. All of our customers are asking that. So smart meters will give us the capability to implement time of use rates. And we are doing research on that right now. What I can tell you is, according to our CEO, our president and CEO, Lori Clark, these time of use rates, even though they're not designed yet or in the research stage, they are not meant to be punitive. They will benefit New Brunswickers. So, and they do have to be approved by the Energy and Utilities Board. Some of the notions or some of the thought process on time of use rates that I've heard at other presentations that I've held is, am I going to have to do my laundry at 2 a.m. or it's going to cost me more? So that would be considered, you know, a punitive type time of use rate. And that's not the intent when we do implement time of use rates. It will give our customers an option to change their behavior for their use or gifts for their usage, but it's not meant to be punitive for our customers. It does have to benefit New Brunswickers.
Because my understanding is there is some countries in Europe that are in that boat, that the off-peak usage, or to drive more people to off-peak usage by reducing the rates in the off-peak hours.
Yes, and I actually had at the, trying to think of what meeting it was. It was the Quispam and Rosse public session that I did. I had somebody ask me, you know, this is what Nova Scotia is doing. Is this what New Brunswick is going to be doing? And I was honest that, you know, we don't have that design determined, but I do trust our president and CEO. And I also know that we are not going to be able to implement rates that do not benefit our customers overall.
So I guess then, therefore, my second question is, with having all of this information and data at your fingertips in 20 or 12 months, whenever this project will be finished, would that mean that you would therefore need to invest less in the grid due to better tailoring your power generation needs for base load, and then therefore not needing high coal use or whichever natural gas use peak usage that you wouldn't need anymore?
It's going to give us options, and I don't have all of the analysis, of course, on what it's going to mean or what the impact is going to be. But that two-way communication is going to give us information about what areas do we need to implement asset health to manage different areas of our grid, and also be able to have different options for putting power on the grid. Maybe it's through a larger scale renewable project, as opposed to putting all of our investment into the traditional power plants and the poles and the wires and so on. So we'll have to, of course, look at what do we have today? How do we maintain it? What can we do differently with the data coming in from the smart meters to be able to see what are our options to be able to shave that peak?
Sure, I'll have another question in about 10 minutes, but. I'd like to come about that moment.
Then it'll be too late, Christine will be up.
You can always email it. I will always answer any questions, and I know there's a lot of questions that come to mind because it's a complex project, whether it be about, our cost of deploying the smart meters and, the upgrading our power plants, what does that mean? And I don't have all those answers, but I can tell you that with the information we're going to get from smart meters, we'll be able to make different decisions and manage our grid differently.
But I would expect the cost of installation of these smart meters would be absorbed by the lack of having to pay meter readers in the future. Like
Yes.
that investment would easily pay itself back.
Yes, and we had to go to the Energy and Utilities Board to get approval for this project. And we did demonstrate that, yes, it is a very large, costly project, but the benefits outweigh the cost over a 15-year term.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have been able to do this if the ratepayers had to pay all of the costs for us to be able to do this.
So do you foresee power rates going down because of the installation of smart meters?
Well, I wish I could say they're going down.
No,
We're just about an overall decision of but what I can say is we will be operating more efficiently. We will be operating in a more greener way. We have a lot of I want to say challenges for the utility to be able to operate in a cleaner energy way, and we're not going to be rolling as many trucks. We are the cost of providing service. We are a cost to serve utility. So once we have all of the smart meters deployed, we'll be able to take that cost and determine what does it cost to read a meter. How often do we have to read the meter? Are we going to be able to read them all remote? How much does it cost to do a reconnect or disconnect, and how much will that reflect in our rates? So all of that analysis will certainly be taken into account once we're finished mass deployment.
One, I got two quick comments. One, I think putting an FAQ questionnaire on YouTube would be a quick way to just allow everybody access to any questions they might have, or just information you have to give out, because then anybody can read it if they cannot, or watch it if they cannot get to a public session. And my last comment is you guys have been doing a great job with your tree trimming. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you. I'll give that feedback. Wonderful.
And so our session is on the 27th at 6:30 at the Lions Club. We're waiting until, just as a formality, Christina's presentation to council tonight, and then the team will start posting it on the town's page to make sure that it gets the local residents on the town's website and social media. And then there'll be a co-hosted event on Facebook that will go out at some point this week, once the staff member is back from the wisdom teeth removal, and can do said Facebook event, but that will go out this week, and we'll spread the word, and then we have the flyer up in places like the post office, those sort of spots.
So you're doing some of the region right now. When would you anticipate coming through our community?
27th.
To do the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
to
to
start-
deployment.
to
Oh,
start to do the deployment. So when would households?
Mine was done on the 18th of October.
yours was done.
You must be a high consumer.
Yes.
That's why I'd like to know if off-peak usage, I can tailor some of that to lower prices. But anyways.
So we do plan on being in your area in the new year. I don't know what month exactly. Another piece of information as well is if there are new homes being built, we are putting smart meters on the new homes as opposed to putting legacy meters or, older meters on and then going and putting them as part of the upgrade. So if your meter has to be changed for any reason, maybe there's a random inspection, or if you're building a new home, you will be automatically getting a smart meter. So that could be why maybe there's some folks in Salisbury who could have a smart meter right now, but the mass deployment in Salisbury is expected in the new year.
Some town facilities have some, like our lift stations. I don't think we have it at all of our buildings, but all of our lift stations have been switched over too. So incrementally they're around. Yeah.
Maybe the ball field.
I'm assuming the app, or do you have the app now, John?
I haven't got to any of that yet.
Okay. I'm assuming from I'm a senior, we have a lot of seniors in our area. From using any online applications, will be training or how-tos online.
Yes, we actually had that question when I went to St. George. I did a presentation to the seniors, and the how-tos was really important. And another, I guess I found there was some fear, just to be honest, about, you know, does this mean I'm not going to get a paper bill anymore? Do I have to do everything online? And I quickly said, no, you still have a choice to have everything on me. You don't have to use this website. It's not mandatory. It's information that's additional for you to be able to manage your power usage. I showed a few folks how easy it was. I really like the idea of tutorial though, on, you know, step by step. This is how you log in. It's a single sign-on the website. It's not a different app. They don't need to download anything different. They just go to the NB Power website, they create an online account, and then they can see their usage and they can see their bills. And the tutorial is a great idea.
John, can you get on that, please?
Yeah, I should.
I'm definitely going to take it away because you're the second one who's mentioned it, and we have talked to our communications team to help us look at what would that look like.
Well, I mean, just what John mentioned with using YouTube or doing whatever, I think somebody could quickly,
Just recording one of your town halls.
Yeah.
I mean,
just even the screen sessions, you can walk along and do that.
Yes.
because you won't find everybody at the exact day you have the meeting. That's just the reality of it.
That's very true. Very, very true. Not everybody can get out to when they're being held, right? So to have different avenues to share the information is really important.
Any questions, Joe? No additional questions. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
I was trying to rush to item number 7 earlier, but
Mhm.
we'll move on to item number 7, reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings.
So there's one recommendation coming out of closed.
Yeah, closed session October 15th, 2020.
Let me pull it up here for the background. So as usual, we'll read the background before the recommendation. So during the closed session of the regular council meeting of October 15th, 2024, town council discussed the trail use agreement between the town, the New Brunswick All-Terrain Vehicle Federation on behalf of the member club, Albert County Trailblazers, and the New Brunswick Federation of Snowmobile Clubs as represented by the local club, Southeastern New Brunswick Snowmobilers Association. This agreement governs the shared use in addition to pedestrians in addition to those clubs mentioned, for the abandoned rail bed between the Route 106 and the Ailes Road that is owned by the town, which includes the railway trestle. The agreement has been signed by both user groups following the direction provided in closed session on October 15th, and no further changes have been made to the agreement, and this is formalizing the approval in public session. So with that, there is a recommendation on the floor.
I'll move that council ratify the agreement between the town of Salisbury, the New Brunswick All-Terrain Vehicle Federation on behalf of the member of Albert County Trailblazers and the New Brunswick Federation of Snowmobile Clubs as represented by the local club Southeastern New Brunswick Snowmobilers Association, and authorize the clerk and mayor to sign and fix the corporate seal thereto.
So moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion?
What was the agreement with the signage for the pedestrians and?
So that's still, do you mean we had talked about like a service on it? So they're talking about that again at their next meeting. Chances are though, it's going to be a split. There's concern, like one of the recommendations was plywood, and that will deteriorate the materials underneath, which is why they put the boards there. But they're going to discuss at the next meeting because they're also going to discuss that project for the trestle for the upgrades. That's on their agenda. For the Snowmobile Association, it's more on that side. But they are fine with having a delineation, and we have the measurements for the groomer. So we're gonna have those conversations with the engineer that does the structural side to see how far the railings will come out, and then see if there's some way to do a delineation.
Perfect,
Yeah, so those conversations are ongoing.
perfect.
Yeah, but you could even steal like a handrail or like a guardrail almost in between.
I think
You wouldn't want to have anything
Yeah.
because that's a hazard.
Yeah.
That's a huge hazard.
I think if some of the delineators that you can see like on like active transportation infrastructure might might be an easy route that can be removed and replaced, and if someone hits it, it just, yeah,
Yes.
it's like those ski poles that are on slopes.
Great
Whole bridge
incident.
is steel, so steel,
What's that?
the whole dang bridge is steel.
Yeah, but the chance of
They
someone
get
hitting something in the middle of it versus on the sides, the more likely.
Yeah, you'd be,
But yeah, those conversations are,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? No, no additional questions. Are you
I
good,
think
Joe?
Bill had one. Oh, no, oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay, moving on to item number 8, reports from administration. Number 1, 2025 budget proposal, general operating and utility budgets.
I have a presentation now, Diane. So while Diane pulls up the presentation, I will start again with the preface of saying that this is still a budget in draft form. No numbers have been changed since figures were initially circulated to council on the 29th. Or no, sorry, it was even before that, because the tax basis numbers were received on the 29th, which I think is the day after, thank you, which I think is the day after. Yeah, we had the meeting, we had the discussion before the tax base assessment was released. So I'll go over a little bit of where we're at. So the usual deadline for us to provide the budget to the province is November 15th. This would generally be the meeting that we would provide those confirmed numbers and resolutions to the province. In light of a provincial election and the province being in caretaker mode, we received the tax base assessments later, which was on October 29th. Usually that's in September. We are still awaiting some final numbers, mostly being RCMP. So there's placeholders in there, which is why some of those numbers will change or are subject to change as we bring back a final budget. The intent and discussion with council is to maintain all the tax rates across the LSD and former village subunits in 2025. And as part of that, we're looking at adjusting some of the LSD proportion of shared costs. So in 2024, they're sharing 90% of any shared cost. And there are potential opportunities to decrease those across the board for certain services. Just to reflect that in most cases, they are receiving or have less direct access to some of them, which again is subject to those final numbers once they come in from mostly the RCMP and fire cost sharing. Our approach from staff's perspective is to take a unified approach in looking at the municipality when we recommend a budget to council. The next slide, I will speak to some of the significant hurdles that were overcome this year and some of the large projects that have been moved, mostly in part of the fact that we were able to hit the ground running as a municipality and are leaps and bounds ahead of some that are still having some of these challenges that are not unified amongst their taxing authorities, which really are discussions once a year when the budget is set. But when those conversations are part of every single decision, it can be a challenge for municipalities to make as much progress as we did. 2024 was approving this budget, that the conversations that happened last year were much more difficult than the position that we're in now. But it is important to highlight a number that we were made aware of after the fact, which is that 66% of taxing authorities province-wide were in the same position as the town and had to increase their tax rate last year. So we hear a lot of the larger municipalities that weren't affected as much by municipal reform, including in immediate neighbors that didn't have to have as many of the conversations and deliberations that we did last year. And when the final budget is approved by council, we will bring forward a 5-year basically budget outlook as is proposed in the strat plan, with the caveat that the new provincial government has committed to fiscal reform, and what that looks like is to be determined. So that will be affecting, obviously, hopefully, what our budget looks like within the next 5 years. So just to highlight, it is important for us to take a moment just to look at what some of those difficult conversations led us to. So without diving into them, capital projects alone are significant. The amphitheater, the polishing pond, the trail construction, the washroom opening, the delivery of a new fire truck, the start of the fire hall, resurfacing of Route 106, and then operationally, we right-sized the municipal staffing levels. So by all accounts was a significant year, and that was our commitment to council, which I am quite confident has been delivered on. And as we'll see later on tonight with some of the discussions, is still an ongoing conversation as we try to maximize some of the funding that we were able to pursue. So if we look at our tax base for next year, which has since been confirmed after the initial numbers were circulated to council, we can see that year over year, we are very close in terms of what our assumptions were. So we were holding about a 10% assumption for 2025, which you can see is slightly over. And it changes from one subunit to another. One element that is, I would say, above what was predicted is the non-residential in the former village subunit. So that was increased by, the assessment base was increased by 9%. There's a few there reasons for that, mostly some non-residential properties that are now seeing their full assessment. So that were in construction in previous tax assessment years. That's the assumption. We do have a meeting this week. Service New Brunswick is taking the opportunity to go on what I would call a roadshow. So Diane and I are chatting with them this week, and they'll give us some more behind the numbers. This is basically released in a spreadsheet. So now they're taking the opportunity to explain this to us. But in 2024, 55% of the properties in the town were in SPM, or spike protection mechanism, which is 18.9% of the town's real and true taxation. So there's a value for taxation, which is what we receive from the province in our warrant that comes from the property tax revenue. And there's also the real and true assessment, which is including the properties that are in spike protection. But if you look at the bottom line, without diving line by line, the 2025 tax base for the whole town is about $860 million. So our 2024 projections, again, we're not going to dive into this other than highlighting some of the variances that are there. This has been shared with council previously, but includes the net costs for mostly capital projects that we're seeing, or in the case of the fire hall, the interim financing projection. So the majority of the variance in a good way is that you can see there is a 2.8 in a positive direction difference in our revenue for 2024. And that is essentially exclusively almost, when you look at those numbers, due to grants that are projected to be received before year end. If you look at our cash flow statements right now, some are coming in today. A lot came in today, which was nice to see. But most of that is grants that mostly offset what you'll see in the expenses in the recreation and cultural services, which is again about 1.8 million over what was budgeted. I like to give the caveat that Massimo was not going over budget by $1.8 million to serve hot chocolate and decorate the park for events. Our capital projects in 2024, for the most part, are under there. So the trail, the amphitheater, those are all in there. But the projections for the operating budget do include the additions that we're discussing today, any projects that had change orders or unexpected things in the case of the amphitheater, as an example, over excavation. All of these things that happen and that are to be expected in capital projects are all in there, which shows that the town is in good shape. And that also includes our if you look at the end, our anticipated transfer for the end of the year to transfer into reserves for the municipal building. We had foreseen that as an operating expense this year. We budgeted for the full debenture for the fire hall in 2024, and obviously did not start paying interest until late summer. So that's another reason for that. So this is the overview of the draft by service area. So a really high level overview, again, by service area for the municipality. For lack of not going through line by line, I'll give some of the highlights. So if we look at protective services, you can see that in 2025, that is just shy of 31% of our total operating budget. About 20% of that is the RCMP alone. So that's always something that we highlight. It is a significant expense for municipalities. and questions were asked, and we recently discussed some of these numbers. And it is true that the province does offset some of those costs. That's not the municipality eating the full chunk, but does show that there are significant events or significant expenses in the event of needing the RCMP. The resources are there, as we have seen this year, I think, alone. Transportation services does actually show a reduction over 2024. And that does not mean that we're taking away from Trevor's budget. Just like I like to give the caveat with Massimo not spending $1.8 million on hot chocolate, we're not taking away from what is under transportation services. If you look at the very bottom under fiscal services, you'll see a significant jump there. And that's the majority of those reallocated numbers from transportation services. Very similar to a little bit confusing with our projections and showing a $1.8 million delta in recreation. Those are due to capital projects. So our capital budget is under fiscal services in 2025, which also includes from Trevor's area, the resurfacing allocation for the former village subunit. And in 2024's case, there was the budget line for a trackless purchase, which is back under essentially reallocated to other capital projects in 2025 under fiscal services. I'll highlight there as well. Then in 2025, the town will pay just over 168,000 in annual debenture debt payments, which is from a debt profile perspective about 2% of the town's operating budget, which is well within the parameters of the province, which is about 20. So again, very healthy. If we look at including the fire hall debenture and look at 2025's numbers, it would be about 9%. So again, still in a very healthy position. And 4 of the 6 debentures that we currently have on the books will be completed and paid off between 2025 and 2029. So when we look at our 5-year capital budget, that is an element to consider as well. The majority of expenses line over line are inflationary, so I'll speak through some of the highlights above that when we go through some of the overall highlights. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. This is really throwing me off. There we go. So again, inflationary increases anywhere between 3% and 5%. It depends on the service area, and it depends on what the projections are in 2024. We are proposing an increase to the grant budget that was directed by council, and although it doesn't show in the last slide, that is being held based on our tax basis numbers right now. And we're also proposing allocating 5,000 of our grant budget to pilot a similar program as St. Andrews to offer residents the ability to equip their basically properties with CCTV cameras. And St. Andrews, I think, is $100 or $125, and we'll use something similar, 100 even. Okay, we'll do something similar in attempt to assist residents in having footage to provide to the RCMP in the event that is needed. We are reducing our office building expenses to reflect our 2024 projections. There were one-time expenses in there. As mentioned, we're assuming an RCMP cost. It's the main kind of kicker that we're waiting on. We're holding 4%. And again, I'll highlight till I'm blue in the face that's 20% of our operating budget. We're maintaining an enforcement other line to introduce the neighborhood watch program next year. This year was a catch-all for the introduction of a new service area. We're maintaining the fire hall professional services line. There's a slight reduction over what we're seeing in 2024, but that is because 2025 is on commissioning the building upon completion and contributing from the operating for furniture and fixtures that are not NIC not in contract there. I had to think of the acronym. So that we're paying from our operating budget. And cost sharing of fire services does continue to be cost prohibitive. Discussions are ongoing with municipalities that I would say reach that cost prohibitive level to have municipal specific agreements to avoid them increasing with tax base alone. And because we have no essentially say in their operating budget that's approved. So municipal to municipal agreements will provide us with a mechanism to, 1, be predictable, and 2, have more of a say.
Is there any way to readjust those boundaries?
Fire boundaries, yes, those are part of those conversations as well. Less so with the ones that are cost prohibitive, unfortunately. There's a magic number from an insurance underwriting perspective, which the boundaries for the most part meet. There are some areas, the Lower Mountain Road area, it's Upper Mountain Road, I guess, that we can get to quicker in most cases. So we have the numbers for to show that. So those conversations are ongoing. Yeah, going. And it's area dependent, because it's 13 kilometers, I think is that magic number. So that has to be taken into consideration too. The main challenge isn't necessarily with area that's covered, it's operating budget of the municipal fire departments.
I understand that. Just begs the question, if they cannot adjust the fire boundaries to reflect the different disparities.
Yeah.
If it shouldn't be charged for mutual aid or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Billing for mutual aid to recover some of those costs.
Yeah. Do you mean them bill us or vice versa, or vice versa? Yeah. I would say there's more likelihood of having the conversations municipality to municipality, because I think in the spirit of mutual aid, I think that our region works really well, and when needed, everyone is there. But there is an appetite, I would say, or willingness, I shouldn't say appetite, willingness to discuss the municipal to municipal agreement, because it's just a fact of when they add staff or when they add equipment that is much more expensive. Not equipment wise, but staff wise, we pay a disproportionate amount with no necessarily change in service.
And that's the thing, that has to be remediated
Absolutely.
in a way that is reasonable for all parties.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if that cannot be done, then those
Explore
invoices
something
need to be
Yes.
another
Explore
avenue
something.
with which to address the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
So today our cost is just formula based. It's not based on call responses.
Correct. Yeah. It's a provincial formula is what it is. It basically takes the operating costs of the department that the municipality would receive services for. So in the case of both Moncton and Review, they offer to a certain extent fire prevention. That's not part of what they would offer in the town of Salisbury limits. That's within their municipal boundary specifically. But when a 911 call comes in and fire is dispatched, they would be dispatched first in certain cases. So it takes that proportion of basically tax base in that vicinity, for which includes equipment, salary increases, or salary just as a whole. And so that is the kicker, is with two of the three main departments that we cost share for being a full-time paid department. It's expensive. It's expensive. Yeah. And there's other municipalities with some of the numbers that we looked at today. I don't know if you saw them, but there's one neighbor municipality. It's $1.6 million. It's a rural municipality. It's not their own fire department. So that's crazy. But we're not that. It's not that. But we want to make sure we have those conversations to avoid year over year substantial increases, and then us have to ask and say, what is the increase, and give us a rationale. It's more of a predictable formula. So those conversations are ongoing, and there will be, I would say, ongoing council conversations once those formalize. Beyond our conversation levels. We've increased the crosswalk budget to act on the crosswalk study that council directed us to undertake. We got the final version, unless we see other changes today. So anticipate presenting that to council, hopefully before year end. But the budget is being proposed, and there are some quick wins that will be able to be done for next year. I mentioned the capital budget being shifted towards fiscal services, and we'll speak to capital budget afterwards. There's a few elements. These are the next two bullets kind of combined related to waste collection. So the regional waste collection contract is shown for the full year next year. There's also waste contract bridging for the month of January. So both for the former LSD and the former village. And there's also an allotment of 10,000 for fuel surcharge, because those are fuel cost dependent in the contract. And then from a revenue perspective for the next bullet, there is circular materials revenue, which is part of the extended producer responsibility program. That's about 99,000 revenue for 2025. We're maintaining a professional services engineering line for capital projects, engineering related to capital projects, mostly for design for the subsequent year. So for this year, for example, now when we're starting design or surveying work for 2025 projects, It comes out of this professional services line, but it's also where we fund the engineering crosswalk study that I just mentioned, but also strategic projects like the continuation of water. And depending on what that will look like, we also got the draft on that on Friday and have our meeting with Anglo tomorrow. So foresee that being circulated in the coming weeks before year end, not presented before year end, but will be circulated before year end. We're increasing the beautification line for a number of projects, including general beautification, so that think hanging flowers along Main Street, but also for some items such as the 3D signage at Highland Park. So every year we'll replace one of the numbers or shift kind of positions. Next year we added 2 to switch to calendar years, and then we'll do that moving forward. Christmas lighting at the park, and then the mural for the amphitheater are the other elements. We're introducing an allowance for a banner program to begin basically an annual inventory with what that will look like will be to be determined, and it will be built on year over year. Similar to the veterans banners, we'll look at having banners on the brackets where we have them for other periods throughout the year, like we did this year for 250.
Christmas?
It could be, yeah, it could be. We don't know what that's going to be. That's going to come back to council in the new year to see what.
Those hangers could hold wreaths or something to that effect.
They can't hold those. They're meant in their size for the banners, but there's other options that we can use beautification dollars for. But there's a very positive reception for the veterans banners, and same thing with the Salisbury 250 banners. One of the 250 committee members did have a suggestion that would basically kind of use an opportunity to highlight elements from residents that can kind of continue. It's neat to see something that someone created on a banner. The grad class does that, so they pick one every year. It's a piece of art that's done by a grad. So something like that is interesting, I think. So we'll figure out what that looks like, and year over year we'll build on it. We're not replacing or adding 100 banners next year. It'll be something that we kind of build on. So we'll see what that looks like. One of the other strat plan items is the residential development incentive program. So there is an allotment in the operating budget for next year to begin rolling that out. Stantec recommended an even 100,000, which is what is in the budget right now. We anticipate that being depleted quickly based on projects that I would say are in the queue if they proceed. But we will watch that number closely, and we'll keep council updated on a program of that nature. We would do that regardless, but especially as we get to kind of fall of next year, there's an opportunity as we look at projections to see what that looks like from a kind of first year pilot perspective. We're maintaining.
Finalize that.
In bylaw format.
Right.
Yeah, so we got that from Stantec, and there's a couple more tweaks that still have to be made.
Okay.
But now the tweaks of the application questions, so they're very close to being there. And we have it in one of the December kind of meetings as a tentative bylaw introduction. Worst case, it'll be first thing in the new year. So it'll be done in the next few meetings.
Did we add anything for commercial on that?
Not as part of this one, but the report speaks to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
the report speaks to it. Yeah, as to what that can look like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're holding a line for a storefront beautification program, which is an economic development plan priority, as is the tree planting program, which is an increase of our existing tree planting budget, but that looks at providing basically trees for net new construction town-wide is the intent, with the program to be finalized by council. An increase to event budgets across the board, so that's quite literally at all of the event budgets. And those increase anywhere from 500 to 1,000, in some cases 1,500.
Especially Halloween.
But yes, we got the clear message that Halloween needs to be really ramped up, and so we will do that.
The people have spoken.
Yeah, the people have spoken, yes. So we will do that. The interim financing for the fire hall is there as well. It's just a reshift of funds that we had allocated in the 2024 budget. We're also anticipating a cost of issuing the debenture, which is 1.5%. I'm questioning, right? 1.5K. of the total cost of the debenture. And basically, if we do not decide to issue the debenture in 2025, depending on interest rates, which is what we'll monitor, if they continue to decrease, there might be a strategic advantage to hold it from interim financing and not cash it out until the following year. Then the cost of issuing the debenture just covers the difference of interim financing. So those will be ongoing conversations. And then again, our capital budget, which is on the next slide to run through. There's a number of capital projects that are proposed in that fiscal services section. A number of these, as you can see, are funded through different mechanisms, ranging from the operating budget, grants, or transfers from existing dollars that are in the bank account, like CCBF, which is also a grant. And there is still one that's being held that's in red, which is a resurfacing project, which will only proceed if one of the other projects is successful from a grant perspective. But those are the projects that were in the 2025 line for the 5-year capital budget that was approved in September in principle, and will be formally approved by council when we pass the budget this year. So going into the utility, this one's really quick. It's a one slide. We're projected to have 1,163 units in 2025. And in 2024, we increased our rate to $400 per unit, which is recommended to be maintained in 2025. We're anticipating the budgeted revenues to be just over 465,000, which is based on those units. And we are looking at decreasing the utility to operating transfer over the next number of years to reflect the cost of operating the utility and the cost of basically the staff time that goes into it. In 2025, we are carrying a deficit. It's just over 50,000, which is a third of 2022 and a fourth of 2023. So we have to carry 2. We've previously carried 3 years prior, but like the operating, it now has to be done over 2, which means that we have to combine basically. We anticipated a 40,000, which now just switches to 50. There's no impact on that on the rate itself, but that allows us to carry it over a number of years. And our collection efforts are ongoing for outstanding accounts, which will continue in 2025, as we've seen in the last number of years. And with that, I will highlight kind of our next steps, both for the utility and for the operating budget. So we're awaiting our RCMP numbers, and then we expect, pending those numbers, to ratify our budget at one of the December meetings, hopefully the regular one. That is the intent. And then there will be a number of recommendations that will be on the floor for council. The operating, utility, and capital budgets, the first 2 having the province's very peculiar wording with the specific rates for each subunit. We'll formally approve the 5-year capital plan that was discussed at committee of the whole. The direction for staff to negotiate the municipal specific cost sharing fire agreements, which just gives us weight to show the municipalities that we have direction from council. And then the other element that we'll look at doing is merging the former LSD subunits. So many municipalities are envious of the fact that ours are in very close proximity, which gives us an opportunity to, as of 2026, have 2 rates, which is basically the serviceable boundary and the former LSDs, as opposed to right now having 5, which can just be a bit challenging from a communication perspective. It will make that a little bit easier. So with that, any questions or discussion on where we're at? The intent of this is to provide an information update. Like we said, numbers have been updated since the initial numbers were circulated to council, but the intent is just to provide an update so that it's not a surprise when we come in December with the finalized numbers based on this direction.
Great job. We just hope that RCMP number doesn't come in over 4%.
Yeah, some years it's been 5, some years it's been 6. That has happened. The kind of memo that we've gotten in previous years is that the retroactive piece has been done, so there's no more of that. And the province was clear last year that they're trying to manage the year-over-year expenses, so it came in just shy. It was like 3.8, I want to say. So we're hopeful that 4% will be there. There's still some spots, because we were holding a 10% assumption. There's still some wiggle room that we can adjust as needed. Yeah, and as always, we don't really highlight the income elements. The majority of the town's income is from, especially in the budget, is from the warrant. But if you look at our projections this year, we always take a conservative approach to that and under budget the revenue. So we show no summer grant budgets in our income, which is a 95% guarantee that some will be there. Interest on investments are not there because it could vary, all those things. So that helps offset any differences there too, in a worst case scenario. But we'll cross our fingers that it's less than 4.
Good job. Really good job.
No other questions?
No questions? Joe?
Joe, 2 online.
Great job, great job.
Yeah, super fantastic.
Before we go to section 9, this is where we'll do the trail.
Great goals notes.
Yeah, we'll do trail, yes. We'll do the trail under section 8. If that's
So much
We're smoother than last year.
That was the cold one.
Yeah. A lot easier than last year.
But I think it's kudos to council
Yeah,
and staff, the heavy lifting last year, the hard work last year.
Yeah.
This is really laying the foundation for the future.
Yeah.
Good job.
Very easy to do. We have
Momentum.
strat plans and all the like. It makes our job much more straightforward. So these, yes, that's right. These are, there's 2 recommendations on the floor. I'll give a bit of verbal context to council as to why they are here. So as council knows from last month in October, when we finalized projections and looked at essentially the funding that would be utilized from our funding partners for the trail, and the fact that the trail for the most part had reached at that point substantial completion and not used the contingency. And then also getting the provincial approval for the boardwalk, which was initially part of our phase 1 of the trail, and that's what our funding applications were for, but had to be pulled just before it was issued for tender because we hadn't gotten approval from the Wawa branch where it crosses a provincially significant wetland. So there's kind of 2 factors led us to exploring options to extend the current trail contract to maximize funding that was available and confirmed to the town from different funding partners. At that time, one wasn't, neither were announced, one still is not, so we can't really speak to that, but we can say that from the federal side, there was over 200,000 that ACOA is contributing on a 1/3 basis, basically. The town at that time had no operating dollars invested. It was coming from former village CCBF dollars and the 2022 and 2023 participation prize. And so the recommendation in front of council was to maximize those dollars, but also maximize the trail contract that closed just shy of about 50% of the other bidders, which we will not see in future years. I would dare guarantee, I would say, even on the record, because it is extremely competitive, and we see those rates when they're that significantly under our design consultants OPC. We like to take advantage of that. So there are 2 recommendations on the floor. We've provided a bit of context or updates, I would say, of what has come since our initial request in October. But the essence, if I were to summarize the 2 recommendations, is one is the construction of a boardwalk and ancillary trail extension. So extending the current trail, basically what people will notice is that it will connect the existing or the new trail to Highland Park. So part of that is a boardwalk. The other part is permeable pavers, and the other part is the trail itself. So that is after provincial approval, after many months and several options. I think we were on option 4 or 5. So we're also hoping to squeak that in as part of this Wawa permit that has been issued. That is one, and I would say probably the most significant that we'll see from a trail experience and trail network perspective, to be able to have that connectivity. And the second one is to maximize those unit costs for what we will call straight trail, to provide 2 connections. One to Main Street across from the future fire hall. A couple of other sites were proposed and would have been great to do, but for a number of different reasons have to be postponed to, I shouldn't say postponed because they weren't going to happen this year. We'll maintain future phases of the trail. But will enable us to still have this connection to Main Street. And the second one is to provide a connection to the school, but more importantly, from a selfish perspective for the town, directly to the school's parking. So we had discussions with one of the other options to connect to Main Street to be in an area that could enable us to maximize parking available for events, to be able to direct people there, use the trail to walk to the park when there are hundreds of attendees and just as many cars, which that is one of the options that are not possible for this year, just from a timing perspective. But the school and the district have signed off on us connecting there, which would now allow us to provide an even closer option to promote that as parking, provide a direct connection to the park, and also just have another option directly behind or beside, I guess, depending on what way you configure the building or look at the building, Salisbury Regional. And then in conversation with the design consultant today, very last minute, we also pending that if any surprises are found, and normally with this, the surprises are if culverts are needed, basically from a drainage perspective, as long as those aren't thrown our way in the crunch time to get this finished, we'll actually look at extending the trail instead of just to the parking lot. We'll do that last bend and connect directly to the sidewalk on Douglas Street, which is why you'll see that 10% contingency to give us some options there. Based on also what we can get in from a time and weather perspective. So these are contingent on that. And the funding is available until March 31st, but the town's operating budget just contributes or just projects spending these dollars by the end of the year. So in a worst case scenario, if it goes into January, we can do a reserve transfer and still make that happen and still have not kind of lose any funding. But those are the two different motions that provide 3 additional trail connections. Believe it or not, the contractor is still confident that this can happen. A lot of materials are available. It's the boardwalk piece or materials have to be ordered for, but they expect that to be arrived to be on site by December 1st if they have approval tomorrow. And as long as the ground isn't too frozen for them to put the helicals in, they can go even if it's the weather we're seeing outside today. So that's my Coles notes of the summary, and I will just stress that to date, before these, the project was exclusively funded by external sources. If you include participation and former CCBF dollars that we were contributing also as external, not operating budget. This does have some portions from our operating budget, but we'll maximize the funding that's available to us. And we joked today and said we are going to have to do a master trail plan quicker than in 10 years because we're checking off about 4 years of trail work in 1 year, which is a pretty huge deal, and will put us in a good position to do some of the regional conversations moving forward. So those are on trail work. So those are my close notes and available for any questions. But other than that, there are 2 recommendations on the floor.
I'll move that whereas confirmed funding available exceeds the confirmed trail value for the Braemar to Park and Trail, council award the work to J.K. Fraser for the construction of a 62 linear meter boardwalk with additional trail, approximately 106 meters of permeable pavers as per Wawa permit requirements, and 50 meters of stone dust trail to connect the new trail directly to Highland Park's wetland trail at a cost of $230,490. Excluding HST, and authorize administration to carry a construction contingency of up to 10% of the total contract cost, including HST.
Moved by Councilor Oblinus,
I'll second it.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Gallant. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
Whereas the, yeah, we have the second one.
Yeah, second one. Yeah, sorry.
Whereas the town has not been required to use the full contingency for the existing trail contract and to maximize both funding available and competitive unit pricing on its contract, council extend the current contract of contract SAL S 2024-07, Braemar to Parkton Trail, for the connection of the trail to Main Street and additional work on accomplishing as many phases of the trail plan as possible this fiscal year, as weather permits, at an approximate cost of $79,720, excluding HST, and authorize administration to carry a construction contingency of up to 10% of total contract cost, including HST.
Moved by Counselor Bannister, seconded by Counselor Oblinas. Questions to the motion?
I do have a question. It's more just to clarify. I'm trying to picture where that second connection that you were describing is going.
The boardwalk or
Oh,
school?
Right along the school.
I'm gonna
Still on
show.
the backside of the school property?
Yes, yeah.
Between
So-
Dundee and school.
Yes, it will connect to LFPP being considered as well as part of a future development project. I'm gonna pull it up here. This came at 4:28 PM today, so it's still very much hot off the press, but I'm not putting it up on the screen there, but this is the existing connection on Braemar that we see. This is Braemar Street here where the trail goes now. The boardwalk, you can see it there towards the end. And the new connection will come along the soccer field, back behind the school parking lot, behind the school. And then if we can make it happen, timing and weather-wise, and if we don't have to use contingency elsewhere, up along behind the parking lot to the sidewalk. So the school signed off to basically a little bit further to the parking lot. We still have to make that connection happen. It hasn't been walked on site, so just aerial image and what's available online desktop has been looked at, so it might switch from one spot to another. There's two kind of pinch spots that might be close. But that's the essence of where it would loop around.
I wouldn't bother with that turn.
The piece
You
all the
have
way
the-
around.
You have the sidewalk going into the parking lot to begin with.
Yeah, you do. It doesn't connect directly. I think the piece that it was there was more, and we have to have that conversation with the district because at other schools, they wouldn't allow trails to go around a school property like that would be used by the public if it didn't have that connection. So if the access, technically, if the trail started there, started. If there was a trailhead there, it would have to end via a playground,
Yeah.
which they don't like. But
If they've already approved it, then I wouldn't worry about it.
yes, approved it tentative subject to drawing, so they have to look at these.
I
But-
think using your budget instead of continuing that piece, any of the subdivisions that could connect to the current trail network makes the most sense. In terms of Blakeney Road to Abbey Trail, Wortman, Jared, any of
All of those would require the reason that these are so, this one is so easy to add is there's no lump sum cost like tree clearing that has to be
No, I
added.
understand, but a lot of these have ad hoc trail access now.
Yeah.
It's not proper.
Formalized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's much of that can be done
Yeah.
under this contract.
Yeah, I would say the piece, we can look at it. The only challenge is timing wise. This would check off the trail plan. Yeah, and then it gets it done like it's November 12th. And those ones, other than the tree clearing, are easier because to your point, there's a lot of those. For those ones have informal ones. The other challenge that you'll see with a lot of those is wetland delineations.
No, I'm not,
So
I'm
those
not saying
can't be
that
done
they
yet.
all can be done.
Yeah.
necessarily, Or that a culvert
Yeah.
won't be necessary or
To
what.
explore at, for sure, yeah.
If you can't squeak in as
Yeah.
many of these,
Yeah.
just dumping some crushed rock and
Yeah.
smoothly rolling it out.
We can look at what some options are, to stretch those dollars. And these are kind of approved threshold and what staff can authorize internally to make those dollars go as far
Or
as we
just to
can.
try to get as much connected as possible.
Yeah.
For the-
Yeah.
The good price that we're getting for it, and then.
Yeah.
By all means, to get as much as
Make
you
it-
can
make
done.
it roll. Yeah, that's kind of the plan. The other thing that I did mention in my note that I noticed in the motion that I will say for the record to hold us accountable is that today we've started conversations on our process to formally name the trail. So we've been calling it Braemar to Parkin, but technically with these approvals tonight, it will not be the Braemar to Parkin. It will be the Highland Park to McWetland Trail to Parkin. And so we're going to use that. We're going to use it as an opportunity to name the trail. We've got a couple options to go out to residents on some options. So that will be expected to come out in the next few months. Because we've been calling it different things. So we will formally name it before one of the random names sticks. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that.
Well done, Austin, to you and your team, like on getting this funding you guys have got,
And finishing
the
this.
achievement, yeah, the goal.
The
It's-
the buzz on the trail is one
Yeah.
of the biggest buzzes I've seen in the community in decades. So getting this
No, well
done.
done, great job, and JK Fraser has done a great
It's
part.
been a super successful project from start to finish. I think when we had these conversations last year with our design consultant on kind of trying to make this work. There were conversations of, can we do the Woodland Trail at the same time? Can we not make that happen? Where does it go? Does it just go from River Road? And so yeah, there's been a lot of positives come out of it, and the resident buy-in has been huge.
There were
for this-
people from
this section.
Moncton and Dieppe that were out on the trail this weekend. They came to check it out.
Overachieving the goal is tremendous.
That's right.
That's so well done.
That's right.
Well done.
Just out of curiosity, do you have anything budgeted for maintenance of this trail?
In 2025? Yes, yeah. So
I'm just curious, like, where it's going underneath the current bridge.
Yeah.
If there's any ice issues in the
Yeah.
spring that are gonna be
Yeah.
needed to be remediated.
Yeah.
And
So
make sure you're budgeting.
Yeah.
accordingly.
So that's a calculated risk. Those conversations were had as part of the design phase before it was issued for tender. This year was a significant flood, and would have eroded part of the trail, no ifs, ands, or buts. That section of the trail has geogrid on the bottom, so it reinforces it. The hope was that the hydro seed would have a bit more time to root and take shape. That has happened a little bit more than when it was first laid, but isn't as kind of established we would have liked.
It's
But
November 12th.
We have, no, but even from when it was first laid in at the end of September, basically. So, the intent was to have started earlier. But there is a maintenance budget for that, no different than the wetland trail now that floods, that needs annual maintenance. So that's just a par for the course. And in future connections, we'll have, even if the trail does require some temporary closures, we'll have accesses around it. So another reason for these notes.
And it's a really good point.
Polishing pond.
Yeah.
It's a really good point that
That is
Austin makes, because I get asked that constantly as I'm walking. And I keep referring to, again, the wetlands trail we've had for years. That is just a fact. And again, we work with it, and we work with Mother Nature, and again, we get the benefits of the trail,
Right.
which we have to upkeep. So
So is the goal to have it somewhat plowed during the winter?
This whole piece, I shouldn't say this whole piece, I think, Trevor also came to me today with a map, having a line of every street and saying, this is our future trail plan at this rate. And I said, yes, that's true. But the intent is what is constructed now and the boardwalk to be plowed year round, or maintained year round, so in the winter plowed. This section, I don't anticipate being different. What we will stress to residents is that there's a sequence of priorities. And so as trails are added, sidewalks still need to be plowed on school days. And that's all part of, that's right. That's right. And so, people will probably be snowshoeing behind the public works crew as they groom the trails. And
But
that's the
for
likelihood.
some of the subdivisions, that would be a good way to get to school.
Yes, exactly,
It would be.
exactly. Yeah, that's gonna be part of our level of service conversation that we'll start in the new year with council, that will look at those priorities. So right now, we have the general priority, which is because there's less trails. So that it starts with sidewalks, they start near the school, they move their way out, and then they work their way to a trail. Is there a benefit of shifting those? I don't know. But those are conversations that we'll have. Similar to how we do it with streets. So, yeah.
And then perhaps lighting in the future as well because of that, but that's another.
Yeah. Yeah. Future phase.
Question was popping in my mind while you were talking about snow clearing, because I'm trying to,
Tis the
I'm
season.
trying to not think about snow. I don't
Yeah,
wanna
tis the
experience it.
season, yeah.
But will the boardwalk be able to handle like the trackless going over it?
Yeah, so it's actually going to be one of the capital items is a side by side specific to the trails. So that is one of the items that it can hold. It can hold a half-ton truck. So the initial boardwalk in one of the many phases that we were going through was intended to design and hold the 1 ton. Not necessary by any means, but it was scaled back just based on the change in length, but can still be groomed. That was a priority. Yeah.
Great job, Austin.
Thanks to the team. I just have to bring it and ask for the A-OK, so. So did we did all.
We already.
That's the question.
Did we? I don't think we voted on that one. No, I don't think we did. Yeah, I don't think we did. Yeah.
Okay, no additional questions? All in favor?
Hey,
You say nay?
Did you say nay or yay?
Say,
No?
I said yay.
Okay.
Okay. Check.
Yeah.
All right, contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item number 9, bylaws, I believe there weren't any.
Anything? No?
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 10, closed session, contractual 68(1)(c), local governance act, labor and employment personnel 68(1)(j), local governance act. With that, do I have a motion to enter into closed? So moved by Councillor Bannister, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. We were, questions to the motion?
Who seconded that? Sorry.
Councillor Dykstra. No questions to the motion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Contrary minded? None. We will now move into closed. All right, can I have a motion to return back to regular council meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Bannister, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lant. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. We'll enter back into the regular council meeting. Moving on to item number 11, mayor and council statements and inquiries. I have nothing to report. Does anybody else have anything to state? Nothing else this evening. Moving on to notices and motions and resolutions. Item number 1, motion related to former village Salisbury bank accounts.
I'll just give a quick intro just to the 3 motions. Just, it's formalities of, it's from an audit trail perspective, so that we don't have these sudden movements of money without council resolution to do so. So it's moving from our former village to the town accounts, and then closing them. If you look in your council package, we had an amount in the second one, I think, and then CRA deposited our HST refunded it today. So they should all be moving to the new one. So clearly we have to have more conversations. But the intent is still to move those remaining balances, which now includes our HST refund, to the new ones and close them out to the new town accounts. So they're formalities. It's not new money necessarily. It's just moving them and having an audit trail for it. So.
It's also giving us the documentation for the bank.
The bank to,
Physically
yes.
do it for us.
Yeah.
They will require it, like we'll have to do it.
Yeah.
We ready for these motions?
Yes.
Yes.
I move that the sum of $95,461.79 being Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, be transferred from the CCBF Village of Salisbury account 00094-58-98714 to the General Operating Fund Salisbury account 0094-12-57404 for projects completed in 2024, and that account 00094-58-98714 be closed.
Seconded.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Delant, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion? No questions. All in favor? Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Carry on?
Yeah.
I'll move that the remaining balance of the account 00094-93-00112 be transferred to the new general operating fund Salisbury account 00094-12-57404 and that account 00094-93-00112 be closed.
Seconded.
So moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried.
I move that the remaining balance of account number 00094-93-00317 be transferred to the new utility operating fund Salisbury account number 00094-12-57501, and that the account 00094-93-00317 be closed.
Second.
So moved by Councillor Bannister, seconded by Councillor Oblinus. Questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried.
The last one is a schedule update.
November, yeah, I guess, committee of the whole meeting. And
I'll move that council not hold December 23rd, 2024 committee of the whole meeting.
Seconded.
by Councillor Oblinus, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions on the motion? No questions. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Oblinus, seconded by Councillor Bannister. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minded, motion carried. Drive home safely, everyone.